my beloved, oh, how precious is the presence of God, and how easily we forget that the spiritual touches everything we call ordinary. Let me tell you something the world may laugh at, but the spirit world never does. There are some things you should never place on your bed, not because they're heavy, not because they'll stain the sheets, but because they carry a weight in the spirit, a residue, a shadow. You see, the bed is not just a mattress, some fabric, and a pillow. It's where your body lays vulnerable, where your mind lets go, where your spirit unwinds, open to the whispers of the night. And yet we toss our shoes on it, our handbags, our dirty laundry, our money, our chaos, and then we wonder, why can't I sleep? Why am I waking up more tired than I went to bed? Why does poverty cling to my house like a fog that won't lift? Listen to me. Some things carry more than dust. They carry energy, they carry battles, they carry the touch of the world, and everything you walked through that day, and when you put them on your bed, you lay them on your altar. Yes, I said altar, because your bed is where you commune with the divine in the stillness. And you defile it when you bring the dirt of life upon it. Never place your handbag there. It carries the spirit of transaction, survival, and sometimes lack. Never place your shoes there. They've walked where angels dare not go. Never place clutter there, for where there is chaos, the spirit of poverty finds a home. Ah, beloved, you don't need a witch to curse your home. All you need is bad habits and ignorance of spiritual law. You don't need a demon to bring sickness sometimes. You just open the door. But I came to tell you today, you have the power to close it. Sanctify the space where you rest. Respect the sanctuary of your sleep. Turn your bedroom into a temple of peace and purity. Don't just clean it physically, clean it spiritually. Remove the filth of the day. Shake off the garments of heaviness. Lay down with gratitude, not with gossip. Sleep with worship in your heart, not the weight of your purse on your pillow. And I promise you peace will come like a river. Healing will rise like the morning sun, and lack, it will have no place to lie down. Guard your bed, because what you allow on it might be what follows you for the rest of your life. Not just the space around you, but the unseen atmosphere you create with your habits, your thoughts, your reverence, or your carelessness. You see, every room carries a presence. Every home has a sound in the spirit, and your bedroom, your bed especially, holds a vibration that either invites peace or invites problems. It's not just a mattress, not just a place to collapse after a long day. It's where your body unwinds, your soul releases, and your spirit rests. And what you allow into that sacred place says everything about what you believe you deserve. When you allow anything to enter that space, things that carry the residue of the world, items soaked in noise, worry, filth, or disorganization, you alter the atmosphere. You shift it from sanctuary to storage, from rest to unrest, and atmosphere speaks louder in the spirit than words ever will. You may not see it, but atmosphere either welcomes the divine or pushes it away. It either becomes a gate for healing or a breeding ground for heaviness. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt sad or tired and didn't know why? It wasn't what was in the room. It was what had been invited there over time. Atmosphere builds. Every item you toss, every careless habit you repeat, every negative word you speak in that space, it builds an atmosphere. And what kind of presence have you been building where you lay your head? If the space around you is chaotic, your spirit cannot rest. If it's defiled by things that carry anxiety, greed, or disorder, your soul begins to absorb that, and slowly, without warning, sickness creeps in. Lack becomes normal. Stress becomes the air you breathe. But if you begin to treat your space like holy ground, if you guard your bed, your room, your rest as sacred, you shift the atmosphere peace comes, healing finds a place to dwell, provision begins to flow. Because heaven responds to honor, and when you honor the atmosphere of your rest, you attract the presence that restores all things. What you do in the natural does not stay in the natural. It echoes. It resonates in the invisible. We were never meant to separate the physical from the spiritual. The two are intertwined, always speaking to each other, always affecting one another. Every action, no matter how small, carries weight in the unseen realm. The way you treat your space, the way you handle your possessions, the way you carry yourself, all of it releases something beyond what the eye can see. We live in a world obsessed with outward appearance and surface behavior, but the spirit realm is not moved by performance. It responds to intention. It responds to the spirit behind the action. You might think placing something on your bed is harmless. It seems insignificant, but when your hands move, your spirit speaks. When you make a habit of carelessness, it trains your soul to normalize disorder, and when disorder becomes familiar, the door opens. Slowly, silently, the spirits that thrive in confusion, in chaos, in dishonor. Spiritual law is not suspended just because we are unaware of it. You don't need to feel a shift for a shift to be happening. Just like gravity pulls whether you believe in it or not, the spirit realm reacts to actions whether you sense it or not. So when you treat your bed like a dumping ground, when you let things of the world settle where your soul is meant to rest, something is exchanged. You may not see it today, you may not feel it tomorrow, but slowly things begin to shift. Energy drains, peace fades, and what once felt like comfort becomes a breeding ground for heaviness. But the same truth works in the opposite direction. When you handle your space with reverence, when you treat your routines with purpose, when you choose to honor even the simplest parts of your life, the spirit responds, peace flows in, protection surrounds you. Blessing finds a landing place because what you do in the physical, how you carry out the smallest task, sends a message to the spiritual. I'm ready, I'm serious, I'm aligned, so never take the small things lightly. Folding a blanket, keeping your shoes off the bed, praying before sleep. These may look like rituals, but they are declarations. You're not just cleaning, you're consecrating. You're not just removing clutter. You're removing access to things that don't belong in your life. Your physical habits are prophecies, and your body, your environment, your decisions, they all preach, whether you say a word or not. Not just physical clutter, but emotional, mental, and spiritual as well. When disorder piles up in your environment, it begins to echo through your inner world. What starts as a few items scattered here and there turns into a pattern, an invitation. Clutter is more than mess, it's a magnet. It calls out to confusion. It gives permission for stagnation to settle, for peace to be disrupted, for clarity to be clouded. When your bed, your room, your space is overwhelmed with things that have no order, no place, no purpose, it doesn't just reflect what's going on inside you. It begins to shape it. You stop thinking clearly. You grow irritated without cause, your prayers feel blocked. You start waking up more exhausted than when you went to sleep. That's not random, that's the spirit of chaos finding a foothold. Chaos is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle. It hides in piles you say you'll get to later. It hides in the clothes you toss aside, the receipts left on your pillow, the half-done, half-forgotten tasks that begin to feel normal. But nothing about clutter is normal to a spirit that longs for peace. God is not the author of confusion, and where clutter dominates, confusion is writing the script. You may think it's just a little mess. Just a jacket, just a bag, just some coins on the blanket. But everything you leave out of order speaks a message that you are too distracted to guard your space. And if you're too distracted to guard your space, the enemy finds that space unguarded. It becomes a landing zone for stress, for delay, for lack. You wonder why you can't focus, why things aren't moving, why your energy is constantly drained. It's because your environment is feeding the very chaos you're trying to pray away. But when you begin to clear it, when you start putting things in order, piece by piece, the air shifts, light returns, focus sharpens, what felt like heaviness begins to lift. Peace comes not just because you cleaned up, but because you broke the agreement with confusion. You told the spirit of chaos, you have no place here. Clutter may seem harmless, but in the spirit it is an open door, a silent agreement, and once you recognize that, you have the authority to change it. Because every item you put back in its place is more than an act of organization. It's an act of spiritual warfare. It's a declaration, I choose order, I choose peace. I choose to make room for the presence that restores, not the chaos that destroys. It might seem like a small thing, a quick habit, dropping your jeans after a long day, tossing your wallet or cash onto the blanket while you settle in. But these things carry more than just fabric and paper. They carry energy, they carry memory, they carry the weight of where they've been. Money, in particular, passes through many hands. It walks into businesses, bars, hospitals, and sometimes into hands stained with greed, desperation, or loss. Every note has a story, and every transaction leaves a trace. When you place it on your bed, you unknowingly invite the energy of those exchanges into the place where your spirit is meant to rest and recharge. Dirty clothes are no different. They carry the sweat of your labor, the residue of your day, and even the emotions you wore while you moved through the world. Maybe you were frustrated in that shirt. Maybe you cried in it. Maybe you walked through places that were heavy with spiritual weight, and now you drop it right onto the place where your body is meant to heal, where your soul is supposed to find rest. That is not just physical carelessness. It is spiritual vulnerability. The bed is more than furniture. It is sacred. It is where the body opens itself to renewal, where dreams come, where God can speak in whispers and impressions. It's a resting ground for your spirit, and when you lay things on it that are tied to struggle, impurity, or spiritual heaviness, you interrupt the flow. You pollute the atmosphere. You might not see it immediately, but over time you'll notice it. Restlessness, financial strain, strange sickness, mental fog, so it's not superstition. It's awareness, it's spiritual intelligence. You're not being extra when you choose to protect your space. You're being wise. There are some things that simply don't belong where your spirit lays its head. Because even though God is full of grace, the spirit realm still responds to principle. And if your bed becomes a landing zone for anything and everything, then don't be surprised when anything and everything begins to land in your life. You can shift this. You can reset the atmosphere. Keep the money where it belongs, tucked away, handled with reverence. Keep the dirty clothes in the basket, not near your pillow. Honor the space, and it will begin to honor you back. Peace will return. Clarity will rise, and what once attracted poverty and weariness will become a place that draws blessing and rest. You may not think twice about it. Coming home tired, kicking off your shoes, dropping your bag on the nearest soft surface, sometimes your bed. It's convenient, it's fast, but in the spirit it's careless. Open shoes carry the dust of everywhere you've been. Streets, public restrooms, sidewalks, hallways filled with countless footsteps, stories, energies. They touch dirt, bacteria, unseen residue, and not just in the physical. Shoes walk through spiritual climates. You may have stepped through tension, fear, even places with unclean spiritual activity, and not even noticed. That's the nature of residue. It's silent. But silent doesn't mean powerless. And your bag, it goes wherever you go. It's thrown under chairs, onto counters, across meeting tables. It holds your money, your ID, your receipts, your burden. It carries things you're done with, things you're worried about, and things you never want to lose. And all of that, everything your shoes have touched, everything your bag holds, is dropped on the very space that's supposed to remain pure, peaceful, untouched by the noise of the world. Your bed is not a resting place for your belongings. It is a sanctuary for your body and spirit. The bed is where your immune system slows down to repair. It's where your mind surrenders to vulnerability. It's where your spiritual sensitivity increases, because in sleep, the conscious mind steps aside and the spirit listens more freely. So what do you think happens when you place things on it that were never meant to rest there? You invite contamination, not just physically, but energetically, spiritually. What you place on your bed says what you believe about the sacredness of your rest. Shoes and bags belong on the floor, on a hook, in a place that's not meant for intimacy and restoration. Your bed is not a shelf, not a storage space, not a dumping ground. When you place the tools of your busyness, your traveling, your labor, on the altar of your rest, you mix realms that were never meant to intertwine. You wonder why you can't sleep deeply, why you feel tension at night, why heaviness greets you in the morning. It's because the bed no longer feels like a sanctuary. It feels like another extension of the outside world. You protect the bed not just to be clean, but to keep it consecrated. You set boundaries not just to be tidy, but to invite divine presence. Because if your bed becomes a space where purity and peace reside, it will be a place where healing comes swiftly, where dreams become clearer, where rest becomes a weapon against everything that drains you. And it starts with a small decision. Don't place what carries the outside world on the place where you meet God in silence, because sleep is not just a physical function. It is a spiritual exchange. It's the moment your body releases control, your mind lets go, and your spirit becomes more sensitive to what surrounds you. That's why what you allow in your sleeping space matters more than most people realize. The room where you lay your head is not just another room. It is a chamber of renewal, a sanctuary of healing, a private altar where God can whisper, reveal, restore. And like anything sacred, it should be treated with reverence. If you don't honor the space where you sleep, the atmosphere begins to shift. Rest becomes restless. Dreams become disturbed. Your energy weakens. You wake up feeling like you never truly laid down. That is not just a matter of comfort. It's a matter of alignment. You can't pour your spirit into a place that carries clutter, confusion, and spiritual residue, and expect to rise with clarity, strength, and peace. You cannot build your day on a night that lacked covering and intention. What you allow into your bedroom, into your bed, reflects what you believe about your own worth. Is it a place you rush through, a room filled with noise, distractions, and leftover energy from the day? Or is it a space where you've invited peace, a space you've guarded, a space where heaven feels welcome? Honor is a language. It's not always loud, but it's always recognized in the spirit. When you light a candle, straighten your sheets, remove the items that carry the dust of the world, you're not just tidying, you're signaling to the heavens that this space is set apart. You're saying, "This is where I meet you in my rest. This is where I lay my burdens down. This is where I expect to be visited, to be spoken to be renewed. When you treat your sleeping space with honor, everything changes. The atmosphere becomes lighter. The dreams become deeper. Revelation comes easier. Your rest becomes productive in ways your work never could be, because God doesn't just speak when you're praying or preaching. He often speaks when you're still enough to listen, when you're quiet enough to receive. So don't just sleep anywhere, anyway. Don't bring chaos into your sanctuary. Don't let your last thoughts be fear or frustration. Don't let the day's filth lay beside you. Create an environment where the divine feels welcome. Let your room carry the fragrance of peace, the rhythm of worship, the hush of holiness. The space where you sleep should reflect the God who watches over you while you do. Guard it, prepare it, sanctify it. And you will begin to find that the most powerful encounters don't always happen in crowded churches or loud gatherings. They happen in the quiet, sacred space where you lay your head, and heaven lays its hand. It doesn't wait for you to shout, cry, or speak in full sentences. It reads the language of consistency, intention, and atmosphere. The unseen world pays attention not just to what you say, but to what you do repeatedly, deliberately, even unconsciously. Every time you make a choice, every time you follow a routine, every time you handle something with care or with disregard, you're sending a signal. The spirit realm is listening, watching, and responding. You might think you're just going through the motions, brushing your bed off before you sleep, lighting a candle, folding your clothes, turning off your phone, praying a few quiet words. But each of these acts, when done with meaning, becomes a declaration. They're not small to heaven, they're not missed by angels, and they're not ignored by spirits that look for access points. The kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light are both legal systems. They look for patterns, for permission, for repeated openings. So when you make a habit of treating your space with honor, of removing things that carry the world's weight from your bed, of preparing your sleep like someone who knows heaven watches, it's not just ritual. It's alignment. You are building a rhythm that attracts divine presence. You are surrounding yourself with spiritual agreement, saying, "This space is not common. I am not careless. I expect visitation." The same is true in reverse. When you habitually place dirty clothes, loose money, shoes, clutter, objects that carry worldly residue on your bed without thinking, you're not just making a mess. You're building an altar without knowing it. You're inviting energies that thrive in disorder, that recognize patterns of neglect, that follow symbols of defilement. And over time, those little acts that seemed harmless begin to manifest as fatigue, as confusion, as delay, as spiritual interference. That's why habits are powerful. They don't need your emotion to work. They need your repetition. The spiritual realm doesn't wait for passion. It responds to structure. What you consistently do shapes what consistently responds to you. Symbols matter too. Objects hold meaning in the spirit. The placement of your items, the presence of certain things in your room, the way you arrange your space, all of it carries symbolism, and in the invisible realm, symbols are like beacons. A clean bed is not just neat. It is a symbol of readiness, of purity, of rest. A disordered, dishonored bed is not just messy. It is a signal that carelessness is welcome, that boundaries are weak, that access is granted. You don't need to shout to move the heavens. Sometimes you just need to build the right habits and place the right symbols, and heaven will respond. The Spirit will come. Peace will stay. And darkness will know that it cannot stay where light has been deliberately invited, through every symbol and every sacred act. Your body is not just flesh and bone. It is a vessel, a temple, a carrier of presence. It moves through the world carrying your spirit, carrying your calling, carrying your history and your future. And what it touches, what it rests on, what it leans into, it all matters more than most people realize. We were not made to treat the physical as separate from the spiritual. Everything your body interacts with leaves an imprint, and everything your body rests upon either replenishes you or drains you. When you lay your body down at night, you are surrendering it in its most vulnerable state. The muscles relax, the mind begins to loosen its grip, the heart slows down, and in that surrender you are trusting the space beneath you to either support your healing or expose you to contamination. That's why it's not just about comfort, but about consecration. You don't throw something sacred anywhere. You place it with care. If you've walked through a long, difficult day, arguments, pressure, heavy places, and come home to lay your body on a bed covered in clutter, items from the street, or things that were never meant to rest with you, you're not just being messy. You're lowering the honor your body deserves. You're giving it an atmosphere that contradicts the healing it desperately needs. To respect what your body touches is to recognize that it deserves more than what's convenient. It deserves clean sheets. It deserves order. It deserves a space that reflects peace, not chaos. Not because you're trying to be perfect, but because you understand value. You don't let something valuable come in contact with contamination. And your body, your skin, your energy, your spirit carries the breath of God. It is not to be handled casually. Even your daily habits matter. What you wear to bed, how you prepare to sleep, what you allow near your body as you rest, it all sends a signal. It's not about ritual for the sake of ritual. It's about saying, this vessel matters, this temple is worth preserving. I don't let it settle in disorder. The way you treat your body in private reveals how much you truly understand your worth. Because there's a reason healing often begins in the body. It's where the spirit takes root, and when the body is honored, when what it touches is pure, peaceful, intentional, heaven responds, strength returns. Restoration happens, dreams become clear. You awaken refreshed not just because of hours slept, but because of the honor that surrounded your sleep. So treat your body like something sacred. Let the places it touches be prepared with love, with care, with awareness. Because in doing so, you're not just respecting your body, you're creating a space for your spirit to rise strong, clear, and whole. Not all dirt or dust is visible to the naked eye, and not all weight is felt in the body. Some objects we handle daily carry the invisible marks of the places they've been and the energies they've touched. That handbag you set on your bed, the shoes you take off by the door, the clothes you wore all day, they collect more than just physical grime. They gather the essence of every step taken, every encounter experienced, every atmosphere entered, and some of those atmospheres are heavy, dark, or troubled, even if you never noticed. This residue doesn't just vanish the moment you bring those things into your home. It clings, it settles. It quietly invades the spaces where you expect rest and peace. Spiritually, it's like carrying the weight of someone else's struggles on your own back without realizing it. That's why the spiritual realm is so sensitive to what we place near us, especially where our bodies rest and where our spirits renew. When these objects are placed on your bed, the very place meant for healing and restoration, you allow that unseen residue to mingle with your own energy. This mingling creates a mixture that can disrupt rest, drain vitality, and open doors to spiritual fatigue, sickness, or lack. The bed is a sacred ground for your body and spirit. designed for purity, renewal, and divine visitation. Allowing things that carry worldly residue there is like mixing holy oil with dirt. It dilutes the power of the place and invites heaviness. This is not about fear or superstition, but about awareness and stewardship. Just as you would wash your hands after coming in from the street, you must be intentional about what you bring into your sacred spaces. You must be vigilant about what you allow near your resting place, because not everything that looks harmless is harmless in the spirit. Recognizing that some things carry residue is the first step in reclaiming your home, your rest, and your peace. It's a call to cleanse not just with soap and water, but with spiritual wisdom and discipline. To remove what drags you down before it settles in. To honor the places where your spirit connects with God by keeping them free from contamination. When you guard your space from the residue of the world, you create an environment where blessing can flourish, healing can flow, peace can reign, because the absence of residue makes room for the presence of God, and in that presence, restoration becomes your portion. It's not always on the stage, under the spotlight, or in the public eye. True holiness is often forged quietly, in the unseen moments behind closed doors, in the sacred spaces where no one else is watching. It begins in the way you treat your personal environment, in the habits you keep when you think no one will notice, in the respect you show to the small things that others overlook. Because holiness is not just a public performance, it is a lifestyle, a discipline, a way of living that honors God in every detail. Your bedroom, your bed, your closet. These are private places where holiness takes root. It's in these spaces that you choose to keep order instead of chaos, purity instead of clutter, reverence instead of neglect. When you make the decision to guard these places, you are saying that your relationship with God is not just for show. It is real, it is consistent, it is deep. You recognize that God dwells not only in the grand sanctuary, but also in the quiet corners of your life. Holiness in private places also means integrity. It means doing what's right even when no one is looking. It means honoring your body by protecting the spaces where it rests and rejuvenates. It means rejecting careless habits that invite spiritual heaviness and instead embracing rituals that cultivate peace, purity, and connection with the divine. When you honor your private spaces, you build a foundation that will carry you through the public storms. This private holiness prepares you for the moments of visible ministry, of influence, of leadership. It sharpens your spirit, clears your mind, and strengthens your resolve. Without holiness in the secret places, the public life becomes shallow, vulnerable, and easily shaken. But when your private life is consecrated, your public life shines with genuine light. Holiness also protects you. It sets boundaries against the spiritual attacks that often come in the hidden, quiet hours. It creates an atmosphere where the enemy cannot find footholds through carelessness or neglect. It invites God's presence to dwell richly in your life, filling even the most private spaces with peace and power. Remember, the seed of greatness is planted in the soil of private holiness. What you cultivate in your unseen moments will bloom in every area of your life. So cherish and guard those places, treat them with respect, cleanse them regularly, not just physically but spiritually, because holiness is not a show. It's a way of life that begins where no one else is watching, but where God's eyes never leave. When holiness begins in the private places, it transforms everything, the seen and the unseen, the ordinary and the extraordinary. Your secret moments of discipline, respect, and reverence set the tone for your entire life. Remember, the foundation of your spirit is built quietly, faithfully, and with intention. So guard your spaces, honor your body, and walk daily in the sacredness that God calls you to. Because when you choose holiness in the hidden, you unleash power in the open, power that cannot be shaken, influence that cannot be diminished, and a life that reflects the glory of the one who dwells within you. Let your private holiness be the birthplace of your public victory,